good at. If I were to answer this, something very random that I feel like I'm actually pretty good at is giving gifts. Okay, so little context, my mom is one of the best gift givers that I've ever met. She's just amazing at it, and so I think it kind of runs in my DNA a little bit. But I think I'm kind of good at giving gifts. It just kind of comes naturally. Like I don't really have to put a lot of work in. The ideas just kind of come to me, and I just kind of go with it. However, this year for Christmas, I was really struggling when it came to getting gifts for different people, especially for my wife, Ashley. And this year we decided to just do like little stocking stuffers, so no like super big gift, just kind of keep it low key. But at the same time, it was our first Christmas as a married couple, and so we wanted it to be special, and I wanted to get a good gift that she would remember. And I couldn't come up with anything. Like I was trying everything. I asked her mom and her sisters, and they were absolutely no help. I asked some of her friends, they were no help, and so I was struggling. And so I came up with this game plan where I decided to go to some of her favorite stores, and my game plan was just to start walking down the aisles, hoping that something would kind of catch my eye, okay? And that's exactly what I did. I went to like Target and Hobby Lobby and all these different places, and I literally picked up a shopping basket and just started walking the aisles, hoping that something would just pop out at me and catch my eye. And you might be surprised to know that there were several times that I left those stores with absolutely nothing. Like it did not work out. It didn't go well. There's this one time that towards the end, I ran into a friend of mine, and they asked what I was doing, and I explained to them, my game plan and everything, and they looked at the empty shopping basket in my hand, and they said, well, it looks like it's going really well for you. And I was like, yeah, clearly. But I told them, I said, it's really hard to find what you're looking for when you don't know what it is that you're looking for. And I think that can kind of describe a lot of us here in this room when it comes to dating. It's really hard to find the right person to date when we don't know what the right person looks like. And I want you to date and eventually marry the right person, right? But there's a big difference between the right person and the wrong person. Right? There's a massive difference between the right person and then just anyone that we might date or eventually marry. And I think a lot of us in here probably have some type of list. Maybe you at some point in your life, you kind of journaled this down and wrote it down. Maybe for you, it's in your head, but I think we all kind of have a list of the ideal person that we could date, whether we realize we have the list or not. And it might be something like, I want him to be tall. Right? I hear this all the time. Well, he's got to be at least 6 feet tall. Right? If he's not 6 feet tall, I don't want anything to do with him. 6'2" would be ideal, but at least 6 feet tall. That would be great. Got to have brown eyes. Of course, he has to be handsome, or he's got to be strong, and she has to be funny, and she's got to have long blonde hair, and they need to be athletic. But I think we can all relate to those things, right? But are those the things that we should be looking for in someone that we want to date? Like, do we know what we should be looking for when we're looking for someone to date? And we're going to keep coming back to this idea because I just want it stuck in your head. Hopefully you talked about this a little bit in your groups. But dating, the purpose of dating is to lead us to marriage. Right? That is the purpose of dating, is to lead us to marriage. And so dating isn't about finding someone that we can just have fun with, or someone cute to hang out with, or someone that will make the best Instagram pictures. Dating is to lead us to marriage. Right? It's about finding someone to do life with, and someone that can help us become the person that God has created us to be. And that is what tonight is about. Okay, tonight is about answering the question of how can we find the right person, but also how can we become the right person. Everything that we're going to talk about tonight should hopefully describe the kind of person that you end up dating or you currently are dating. But at the same time, these should all also describe who you are and the person that you are also becoming. And so I'm going to give us a verse that we're going to focus on. And this verse is really going to kind of serve as the framework of the umbrella for our entire conversation for tonight. And so you've probably heard this verse before. It's probably familiar to you on some level, but we're going to focus on the second half of the verse. So the verse is 1 Timothy 4:12, and it says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity." Okay, in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity. That's what we're going to focus on tonight, because these are the types of people that we should be looking to date and eventually marry. Right? Like, it doesn't matter if he's 6'2" or if she has blonde hair. I didn't decide to marry my wife, Ashley, because of her looks or something like that, but I decided to marry her because she embodies these characteristics in such a God-honoring way. And so for you, with their life, the person that you're dating or you want to date, do they embody these things? Are they setting an example for believers in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity? And again, this isn't just the people that we should be looking for. This is also the people that we should be becoming. It's not just about finding the right person, but it's also about ourselves becoming the right person. So let's get into it. First, speech, right? Setting the example in speech. This is very simply what kind of words are coming out of this person's mouth. And tonight, I want to kind of classify these in two different categories. So we either have the person that's always complaining or arguing or filled with negativity. And on the other side of that spectrum, we have someone that is speaking encouragement and speaking life-giving words. Big difference. What kind of words are coming out of this person's mouth? There's two verses in Proverbs 21 in the same chapter, just 10 verses away, and they say this, verse 9, better to live on a corner of a roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. And then 10 verses later, it basically says it again. He says, better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife. And I read these verses a couple weeks ago with Braden and Blake, and one of them, after we read it, they're like, man, he must have been going through it. It's like, it does seem like he's kind of going through it, right, as he writes this. But really, this, I think, for us is more of a warning than anything else. Like, do we want to surround ourselves with people that are always arguing or complaining or just filled with negativity? And this is important because, first, what comes out of the mouth is an overflow of what's already in your heart. Right? And so the words that we speak, what comes out of our mouth is an overflow of what's already in our heart. And everything that we do flows from our heart. And so we can look at someone and just listen to them and hear the words that are coming out of their mouth and really be able to get like a X-ray scan of what their heart looks like. Because all their words, the things that they're saying are coming out of their heart. But also it's important because these things are very contagious. Okay, I don't know if you've recognized this or noticed this in your life or not, but complaining and negativity, it's contagious. Like it's contagious. It kills joy, kills friendships, it kills cultures. I've been around plenty of people and been in groups or on teams where there's really one person that starts to complain or be negative, and then it just spreads like cancer across the whole team, and it really ruins the team and the culture. You want the person that you date and eventually marry to be someone that what comes out of their mouth is encouraging and helpful for building others up according to their needs. You want someone that recognizes the power of words, that words, the tongue actually has the power of life and death, and they use their words to encourage and uplift and speak life over people. Right? That's the kind of person that hopefully we're becoming, but also the kind of person that we're looking for in someone that we would date. Here's the second idea. We want to set an example for believers in speech, but also in conduct. Conduct is probably what you are expecting it to be. It just means someone's way of life, right? Someone's behavior, how they go about their life, what they do. And the way someone lives is obviously a pretty big indicator on if we should pursue a relationship with them or not, right? Hopefully you're looking at their actions and how they're living to decide if you would want to date them or not. But let's ask the question, what does their life communicate to you? Like the choices that they make, what does that tell you about who they are? How do they treat people? How do they talk to people? How do they respect people? And really, I think one of the best ways that we can evaluate someone's conduct is first, this might be a surprise, but actually spending time with them. Okay, so you're not really going to be able to identify and evaluate someone's conduct if all we're doing is texting or Snapchatting or FaceTiming. Right? We actually have to hang out with this person to understand who they are and see how they interact with people. And can I urge you, when you do this, when you're hanging out with someone, whether you're dating someone or in the talking phase or, wherever you are in this process, can I urge you and encourage you to hang out with them and do this in community? Okay, I think this is something that we get twisted and get wrong a lot in dating today, is that if you're dating someone, then it's about us and the couple, and there's a lot of isolation involved, and we need to hang out with these people in community. Right? We need to hang out with their family. We need to see how they interact with their parents and their siblings. We need to have them hang out with our family. We need to hang out with their friends. We need to bring people into this process. right? Because again, if the purpose of dating is eventually to lead to marriage, then don't we want to see how they are with other people? Or don't we want other people to be able to see our relationship and speak into that relationship? So hang out with them, right? You're going to see who they are and see their conduct, but do that with other people. But another great way to just evaluate and see the conduct that they're living with is simply by looking at the fruit that's in their life. Are they producing fruit in their life? Like, are these things, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, are those things evident in their life? Do you see those things in the way that they live and the way they interact with people? If not, if you don't see those things, that should be a red flag. Right? If you're not seeing these things in their life, if you don't see them living out these characteristics, that having this fruit in their life, that should be a red flag. This last weekend, Ashley and I got to go to Waco, Texas. Her brother and his wife, they live there, and they're some of our best friends, and we got to go, and it was an amazing time, one of the best trips that we've been on. But at the very end of the trip, we went out to some stores to get them a little gift, and we went to a grocery store to get some snacks and stuff just to put together like a little basket to say thank you for hosting us. And we're at the grocery store, and I get a notification on my Apple Watch that says, your flights have been updated. And I said, that's a problem because I didn't update my flights. So I pull out the app and I check, and spare you some details. Long story short, our first flight got delayed, which would have made us miss our second flight. So they rebooked us for the next day, and we would have had like a 12-hour layover at an airport. And we're like, we're not doing that. And so the next 25 minutes were kind of crazy figuring out what to do. Eventually, we decided to pack everything up, and my sister-in-law dropped everything, and she drove us 2 hours to the airport, the Dallas airport, and Dallas is insane if you've never been. Drove us 2 hours to the airport so that we could catch the second flight and so that we could get back home. And luckily, thankfully, we got there in time. We got through security. We got to our gate in time, all that stuff. And we're sitting there waiting for our flight, and that flight ends up getting delayed over an hour. So in hindsight, we could have actually taken the first flight and got there, but we're sitting there, it's delayed. We ended up not getting back home until 1:30 a.m. But that flight gets delayed, and I'll be honest, I'm sitting there at the gate waiting for this flight, and I'm just not having it. Okay, I'm mad with just the 3 hours that we just had, the way that we had to say goodbye. I'm mad that we're leaving some of our best friends in Texas. I'm just mad at the whole situation. And it was in that moment that, I'm looking at Ashley next to me, and I was just very thankful in that moment that Ashley, she embodies this, she has the fruit of the Spirit in her life. Because when I wasn't having it, and when I was, pretty upset and just not enjoying things, she had so much joy and patience, and in that moment, she was just reflecting on the weekend that we had and just being able to spend time together, and I needed that in that moment. Or I needed someone in that moment to just radiate peace and patience and joy, because I did not have that in that moment. And when we're looking for someone to date and eventually marry, we need to find someone filled with the Holy Spirit that is producing the fruit of the Spirit. We desperately need those people in our lives, but we also need to be becoming those people as well. Hopefully that describes the kind of people that we are. And to set the example for believers in speech and conduct and love. Now, love, what I want us to realize about love tonight is that love is not a feeling. Okay? Love is an action. And I think that we get this wrong and confuse this a lot. But this word in the text, 1 Timothy 4:12, this word for love actually means selfless and sacrificial and unconditional. That's what the word means. And so it takes work. Right? It actually takes work. Love is an action. It's not a feeling. We're not, when we're dating, we're not looking for someone that makes us feel a certain way. But we're looking for someone that actually acts out love, that embodies what love actually looks like. For married couples, they don't stay married, or they're not married because their spouse makes them feel a certain way. Right? We confuse that a lot. Love is not a feeling that we have, but it's actually an action that we're living out. When looking for someone to date, or we are dating someone, we need to be very aware, obviously, of how this person treats other people. Now, hang with me for just a second when I explain this. But I hope if you're in a dating relationship or you're talking, I hope that they are treating you really well. but I'm going to assume that they are. I'm going to assume that because they like you, right? They like you. They're trying to impress you. They're trying to get them to like you. Dating is this weird kind of period of time where you're trying to impress the other person and you want them to like you. It's kind of like the interview, right? You're trying to be on your best. You're trying you're trying not to mess up, right? You're watching your steps. You're watching what you do. You're being careful. You want to impress and wow the other person. So I'm going to assume that if you're in a dating relationship, they're treating you well. They're saying the right stuff. They're doing the right stuff. If they're not, right? If they're not treating you with love and kindness and gentleness and respect, they're not valuing you and honoring you, then break up. Easy solution. Okay, if they're not treating you well, there is no reason to be in a relationship with them. Break up. But I'm going to assume that they are, right? They're treating you well. How are they treating other people? How are they actually treating other people? We need to watch how they interact with other people. How do they love and respect their parents? How do they speak to their parents in front of them? How do they speak about their parents when they're not with their parents? What about their siblings? How do they value and honor and love and support their siblings? What about their friends, right? How do they love and support their friends? What about random people? Are they just generally a kind person? How do they love and treat and talk to the waiter, the waitress? What is this person's reputation? Right? Like, what would other people say about this person? What would their ex say about them? Right? I think all of these are questions that we need to be asking because, again, love is not an action, or love is an action, it's not a feeling. And so if we're going to date someone, then we need to date someone that knows how to love people well and love people the right way. We need to set the example for believers in speech and conduct and love. Next one is faith, but we're going to skip faith, come back to it at the end. And so we're going to talk about purity for a second. This word purity, it means clean and pure. And it really, this word purity and what Paul is getting at is that it highlights the call that believers have to live a life that's different, right? To live a life that is actually set apart, that's different, and that actually reflects the character of God. This is talking mainly about two different ideas, and we're going to touch on each of these briefly. It's talking about sexual purity, but it's also talking about moral integrity. So the question that I want you to ask yourself is, are you pursuing purity? Am I pursuing purity in every aspect of my life? Am I pursuing purity in every aspect of my life? You guys have heard me say this plenty of times, but I will continue to talk about it because I think it's one of the most important things that we can talk about. But what you choose to consume will shape your heart. It'll shape who you are. It'll shape the person that you are and the person that you become. The shows you watch, the movies you watch, the music you listen to, the people you hang out with, the books you read, everything that we consume and we take in, it will shape the kind of person that we are and that we are becoming. It's shaping your values, shaping the way that you view the world, shaping your interests and desires. The things that we watch and listen to are shaping the way that we view dating and relationships and people. And so if the person that you are dating or yourself, if either of you are consuming impure things that do not reflect the character of God, then ultimately your heart and your mind will become impure and you will no longer be walking in purity. The things that we are consuming and taking in, they're important and they matter. And with this idea, I'll be very honest and say that this is not easy. Right? Like this is not an easy thing to do, especially as high school students, simply because of the world that we live in. Right? And purity is all around us. It's everywhere that we look. And so to walk in purity and pursue purity just as an individual, but also in a dating relationship, like we have to fight for this. It's not just going to happen naturally. We have to fight for this. We have to fight for purity. We have to fight to protect our mind and guard our heart. We have to fight for purity. We have to fight to think about things that are honorable and holy and good. You have to fight for the purity of your heart and your mind. And you will have to fight for sexual purity. when talking about dating and purity, one of the most important things that you can do is establish boundaries from day one. Before day one, before you're even in a relationship, tonight, establish boundaries, make them very clear, value your purity, and don't stay in a relationship with someone that doesn't value your purity or pushes your boundaries. Okay, and there's so much more that we should say and that I could say about this, but if you're wrestling with any of that, like what that looks like or what certain boundaries look like, I would just encourage you just to talk to a leader. Talk to someone that can help walk you through that or talk to you about what that looks like, because I think it's super important that we understand what that looks like. So we have to set the example in speech, in conduct, in love, and purity, and lastly, we have to set the example in faith. Okay, and this is the most important characteristic that is, it's a non-negotiable, right? Are they a Christian? And the question is not, do they go to church? Okay, the question is not, do they go to church? The question is not, do they say that they love God? The question is, are they actually a disciple of Jesus? Are they following God? Are they fully surrendered to Jesus? Are they living by the power of the Holy Spirit? Are they actually submitted to the Word of God? Like, are they a true disciple of Jesus? And if they are, then everything else that we've talked about tonight will be very evident in their life. Because it has to be more than someone just saying that they're a Christian or saying they go to church or saying they believe in God. Someone just saying those things should not automatically be a green flag in our life, right? You shouldn't settle for anything less than someone that is sold out for Jesus, someone that is just all in pursuing after him. 2 Corinthians 6:14, I love the way the NLT puts it. You might be familiar with a different translation that says, don't be unequally yoked with someone. I like the way the NLT version puts it. It says, don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can righteousness be a partner with wickedness? How can light live with darkness? And the reality with this is that you can't team up or you can't partner with someone that's not a Christian, because you're just headed in two different directions. Right, as a Christian, if you are sold out and you're a disciple of Jesus, then that's affecting your values and the goals that you're pursuing and the way that you're choosing to live your life. And eventually you are walking down this narrow path, trying to go through this narrow gate. Right, and someone that is not a Christian, the truth of the matter is that they are pursuing a different path. They have different values, different expectations, different goals, and they're walking down a much wider path, headed toward a much wider gate. We're headed in two completely different directions. It simply won't work because we're not running the same race, right? We're not running the same race. I love the Olympics. I don't know if you guys enjoy the Olympics. I love it. Whenever it's on, I'm like all in. I become the biggest USA fan that there is. I watch all of it, especially the sports I've never heard of, because I think it's really interesting. But this last summer, when the Summer Olympics were here, I loved watching, and I really loved watching the track and field section, just all the different events with that. And what I think is so funny, just from like a competitive standpoint, is in running or sprinters, when they're running and they get close to the finish line, and so they start like looking to see who's close with them. Usain Bolt kind of made this picture famous. You know, he's winning the race, and he's just looking over his shoulder, seeing who's there, and seeing if anyone is close to him. Seeing if anyone can catch up to him. And, you know, I think this picture is what it should look like for us when it comes to dating. Like, really what we should be about is just pursuing God as hard as we can, as fast as we can, putting our head down and just going full force after him, pursuing him, chasing after him, prioritizing him. And then once we have that down and we're good with that and we're killing it, then we can look over our shoulder and see if anyone else is catching up with us. But like the first desire, the first love of our heart has to be God. He has to be the one that we're chasing after and pursuing with everything that we have. And again, once we have that down, then we can see, okay, who's also running this race with me? Who's on the same journey that I'm on? Who's keeping up with me? Who has the same devotion that I have? And if we look over our shoulder and we see someone that's keeping up with us, then, you know, that's probably a good person that we could get to know and ask some more questions. But with that, I'll ask this question. The question that we all have to ask is, am I ready to date? All right, that was a question hopefully you talked about in your group tonight, but am I ready to date? And here's what I would say to this. If your relationship with God is not where it should be, then you're not ready to date. If you are not completely surrendered and fully running after Jesus, then you're not ready to date. If Jesus does not have your whole heart, if you're not in the Word, if you're not praying on a regular daily basis, then you're not ready to date. Because if you're not doing those things, then you stand no chance at having a healthy relationship that both honors them, that honors you, and also honors God. And so my bottom line for tonight, it's a little bit different, but I really want you to write this down, remember this, because I think it's really important. But my bottom line is only when Jesus has your whole heart. Only when Jesus has your whole heart. Only when Jesus has your whole heart are you ready to date. Only when Jesus has your whole heart will you be ready to date in the right way. We should only be looking to date other people in which they have given their whole heart to Jesus. Because until Jesus becomes the number one love and desire of our heart, we will never be able to date or love others well. So my question for you tonight is Jesus the number one love and desire of your heart?